Hey, book readers. I just finished Alchemized by Sinlin Yu. That was insane. Okay, that was insane. And I am fully invested, 100% obsessed, and I have many thoughts. Okay, to start off, I did not read Manacled. The only thing that I knew about this was that it was Draco-Hermione fanfic originally, and then that it was changed enough that it could be picked up by a trad publisher into Alchemized, and that it had the dark label, like dark fantasy or dark romantasy, whatever, which really tried to scare me off. And this is the biggest thing that I hear from people, being scared of the trigger warnings and the dark label. So I will tell you all about that and everything you need to know to decide if you want to pick it up or if you don't. To start off, 5 full stars. 10 out of 10. I loved it. I was fully invested in every 36 hour that I listened to. Every hour of the 36 hours that I listened to, I loved it. As are probably you watching. I was very hesitant and worried that it was going to be too dark for me. In fact, I didn't pick it up for a few weeks because of that. And lots of people in my DMs saying, I don't think this will be for you. This is too dark for you. And thank you to those people for caring about me. Thank you for all of you for giving me a warning. But I love this one. I say, don't be too afraid of the warnings and that label. The book starts in the setting that in the good versus evil war, evil has won, and this is the aftermath. Okay, so it's not like your typical fantasy where good and evil are fighting and having a war and good has got to win. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is not the direct story of the war. It's like part of that, and also telling of what happens when good loses. So that was really interesting and fun and different to me. Fun? Fun is a funny word to use for that, but like entertaining as a reader, I should say. Encapsulating. It was very captivating as a reader. Okay, so most of the books that we read have it where good wins and all is well because that's what everyone wants to read. This is the opposite of that, and that's why it's labeled dark romance, because of the things that we see when the other side wins. The content warning sounds super intimidating and scary. Despite it, I still loved it. If you see the content warning, it talks about wartime violence, religious abuse, depictions of complex trauma, lots of things that I can't say on here or my YouTube video will be taken down. But I'll explain some of it so that you can decide, okay, I'm fine to read that, or I still think it's not for me. Go and read the full content warning. And then I will tell you, from reading the whole warning and reading the whole book, the only parts that I actually felt gross about were the descriptive scenes of the essay. Okay. I didn't love that. She could have got a lot of the emotion without that, but I understand why she put it. I mean, it goes with the storyline, why it's in there, but that part I did not like. So that was really hard to read because she does give like descriptive explanations of that. However, in my review, you can go and see chapters those are in that you can skip if you'd like. And if you skip it, you're not going to be missing anything. You can just skip that and the rest of the story still will perfectly make sense. That was the one thing where I was like, okay, this is a bit much, and I didn't like that. It made me feel icky. Other than that, all the other things were just like lumped into like being a prisoner and like being in war. If that is a deal breaker for you and you don't feel like you can skip it, then you might not like it. I will say the essay it's kind of like The Handmaid's Tale, which I haven't seen, but that's how people describe it, of like a repopulation effort. But obviously it's against her will. So that's the like setting for it. It's not just like a stranger in an alley or something. That's the information about that. One of the things that I loved about this, that so many books have done us dirty on recently, is that they just fully invested in this as a standalone. Yes, it was a 36-hour audiobook. Yes, it is a huge, thick physical book. But it was so much better as a standalone than it would have been as a series. I've been so annoyed recently with some fantasy books that have broken it up into parts, and it should have just been part 1, part 2, part 3 of one book. Okay, specifically, I remember having this thought about the Kingdom of the Wicked series by Carrie Maniscalco. I didn't even finish that series, but after the first 2 books, I was like, that's not an ending. That's like a plot point that is stopped. And now we need part 2. Okay, so publishing industry, stop doing this to us. We are willing to read long books, as you will see with the success of Alchemized. We will read the long book. You don't have to egg us on for 3 years for nothing. Okay, This was beautiful that it was all in one standalone. They could have split it and done us dirty, but they did not. And I love, love, love that they didn't. As far as the Draco-Hermione fanfic part of it, at first, I didn't even see it at first, meaning like the first hour. I was like, oh, this is like very unique. And then as soon as more characters were introduced, I was like, oh, okay, I see it now. And I loved it even more once I could see the parallels. I was a big Harry Potter fan. I love all the movies. I love all the books. So it was really fun to kind of have that parallel and tie. It made it interesting for me to try to find the parallels and figure out who was who type of thing. For whatever reason, it did give it more meaning while reading. And so that was really enjoyable. The story itself is so heartbreaking, like very emotional and heartbreaking. But also I loved that it was different than a typical hero-heroine story. It was a true morally gray MMC. Very true. Not just a fake, tropey true. It's a very true, morally gray MMC villain who was actually literally willing to burn down anything for her. Another thing that I really loved about it was that it genuinely showed the real costs that he had to pay for her and how it impacted them by the end. It's not just like, oh, he was whipped one time and poor him for, doing the right thing for her. It was like, these are some nasty, big bad things that he did and had to do and had done to him just to save her. And that was unique. And I like that. What does that say about me? I'm not sure. But I also love that it made sense. Okay. Frequently, books rush the transition from enemy to lover, but the 36-hour length of this allowed that to fully be fleshed out, like made it more legitimate and believable of being complete enemies to lovers, because that is very hard to do. And it's very hard to sell me on the true enemies to lovers. Like, no, they're enemies. Okay, they hate each other. They're never going to fall in love. But this one did pretty good. Okay, this was maybe the best I've ever read of a true enemy to lover. And then I was just looking at the Goodreads Choice Awards, and this was a nominee in Romantasy. And I was like, this does not feel romantasy. But whatever this is, I like it much more than Romantasy. In my opinion, Romantasy has become very tropey and like written for the tropes, which has its own place and I enjoy in its own time. But then sometimes I want something like this with like deep, complex, descriptive things. If we're calling this romantasy because it is like very strong romance, I get that. I would compare it more to like an epic high fantasy romance. When I say epic fantasy, I'm thinking like the world building is so complex and detailed, and the magic system is so complicated that it requires a lot of brain power, and it like stimulates my high thinking. That's what this is over just tropey romantasy, okay? This was a complete world. This was a very complex, detailed, enriched world. It's not for the faint of heart. I've seen a lot of people not like it for that reason, and that's fine. You're probably more a romantasy person, and there's nothing wrong with that either. With that being said, it's complicated and complex and intricate, but also I was able to follow along with the audiobook and not get lost, which is a big deal because sometimes that's not possible and I have to go to the physical read. So I never went to the physical with this one. I did this one totally audio, but definitely high fantasy, detailed, complex, very good. Okay. If you're scared that it will be too dark for you, but you're interested and intrigued, I say do it. Okay. Because that was me. This will be like a long lasting book with me. This won't be just like 5 stars, I liked it. This will be like a 5-star that I continue to say every year that I loved and remember and that I will read her next book type of thing. If you're okay with hearing about war times and like being a prisoner and fighting and torture a little bit, you'll be okay with this. A couple more notes about my thoughts. I really enjoyed that the magic system was kind of scientific. That made it a lot of fun. Like it felt like it made sense to me. It wasn't just like, I can do this special spell and that's the end of it. It had reasons, and I liked that. Obviously, magic is magic, but I loved how this one was created and described. The way that they broke up part 1, part 2, and part 3 phenomenal. The idea that the author had to break it up that way was fantastic because I didn't even know it was coming. I was screaming. I was so excited. Just wait. I'm not going to tell you, but I love that. Also, after the epilogue, do we think she's going to do a spinoff? Like, I know this is a standalone, but I would 1000% read a spinoff after that epilogue. 1000% in a heartbeat. Loved it. So everything I've said up till now has been for people who are thinking about reading it and has had no spoilers. So that was that. And you should stop now. Stop the video now because I'm going to give some spoilers after this. Okay. Thank you for listening. Books make life better. All the things. Now the rest of this video is for people who have already read it. I'm going to give you a minute to turn it off so that you don't accidentally still hear. Okay. That was insane. Okay. That was insane. And I am fully invested, 100% obsessed. Should I go back and read Manacled type of level of invested. When part 2 began and I realized it was a flashback, I was like, yes. I love going in blind to books because I had no idea it was going to flashback like that. I just was like, what is this going to be? That was so much fun. And I was shook. Like, I was totally surprised that in part 1, he's already in love with her and she's in love with him. She just doesn't remember. I was totally shocked by that. I did not see that coming. So captivating to read that part 2. That was so fun. I just needed to say that to someone because I never get to say spoilers. I just love that feeling when you're so surprised by something in a book. Does anyone know, has she said, I haven't been a follower of this author up till now, so I'm sure those of you in the fandom already can tell me, is she gonna write something about their kids? Because I would 900% read that, 9,000,000% read that. It was so interesting how she left it. So I have not talked to anyone else who has read this. So if you've read it and you want to slide into my DMs, I would love to geek out with you because I'm like in the fandom now. Here I am. Anyway, I just had to say that part because that was such a satisfying feeling to read that, the flashback at the beginning of part 2 and realize what I was about to get and like realize that they fell in love already before she was his prisoner and he did all these things to her and he loved her so much when he was doing it. Like the all the realizations that come with that was really very entertaining. So subscribe if you want to follow along and talk more books because we all know books make life better.